God.
Surprised me.
What a pretty piece of furniture from the 1780s, 1790s.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Pure Sheraton in design. And, of course, the latest fashion at that time was to show off all these exotic timbers. You've got this sort of parquetry design. Do you know what they're all called? Do you know all these names?
I should imagine there's something like Amboina, Rosewood, that sort of thing.
Oh, very good.
Is it?
Yes, absolutely. There's Thuya wood, and there is Rosewood, and that is probably Kingwood. And, oh, they're just all of the new exotic timbers that were being imported from the East and the West Indies, and it was fashionable to show them like this, to give this lovely diamond effect on the top. The rest of it, striking contrast, is this very black rosewood. Just a very dense black colour, contrasting at that time with white stringing of boxwood or sycamore, either white or green, and then the black. And so elegant, little taper legs, very smart thing. And then it opens up to make a games table. Now, I've never seen one without a loper. There's usually something to support. Because obviously people are going to put their elbows on, I would have thought. Anyway, it's as it was, totally original. And you've got a checkerboard top which you lift off, backgammon underneath, and if you wanted to play ordinary cards, there it is, a multi-purpose table.
I thought it was good that that hadn't been moth-eaten or anything.
Well, I think so too. I doubt very much, though, you know, if that's the original. This is sort of 1890s cloth.
I see.
The original would have been a coarser weave than that.
Yes.
And a greyer colour.
Yeah.
But
Sorry about that.
Well, it doesn't matter. We'll forgive it that. The original leather here, though, my goodness. I wonder how many fortunes have been won and lost on that. Now, tell me the family history with this.
It originally came into the family through somebody who was either the secretary or the valet to the Duke of Wellington.
Really?
And when he got married, the Duke of Wellington gave him this and a set of willow-patterned, a tea set, a willow-patterned tea set. My cousin said that she very well remembered when she was a young girl, her father was playing whist, I suppose it would have been in those days, lost.
Yes.
He was never lose at cards. He had a bad temper, picked up the original playing cards that they were playing with, which had gone with the table always, and chucked the whole lot in the fire.
Oh, how dreadful. What a shame.
So that's sad.
Yes, it is sad. But on the other hand, it's a part of history.
That's right.
And it's a reflection of the times and the character of the person. And as long as you keep the story with the table,
Yes.
you should write that down.
I have.
Excellent. Then and tuck it in the table so that
That's it.
in 100 years'
I
time,
took
when
it
we do
out-
this again.
I took it out when I brought it here.
Oh, excellent. Oh, well, then I'm telling you what you've already done. That's excellent. Well done. But such a pretty table. And with family history, which makes such a difference. Provenance is so important today. It is sufficiently valuable that if it got damaged or stolen, then you should have some form of compensation by insurance. And for insurance purposes, it's £8,500.
Thank you to the Duke of Wellington.
I had it for my 21st birthday from my grandfather.
So, family ring, going back the years,
Going
generations?
back probably only to the beginning of the 1900s, when it belonged to my step-grandfather.
Well, it's almost got the head of the ring is like a box. A pretty garnet in the middle there, isn't it? That purpley colour garnet. Looks a bit like a ruby, but I think looking at this purple colour, it's going to be a garnet in a surround of tiny diamonds that form almost like a star. And then we've got enamel, which I must say, when I first thought I saw that, I thought that they were turquoise, but they're not. It's that sky blue colour.
Yeah.
So that combination of stones and colour was often used in Victorian jewellery.
Yes.
But there's something interesting about this ring, isn't there?
There is.
Because the whole thing is like a concertina. And there, instead of just having a ring,
A bracelet.
it's a lady's bracelet. So, I mean, it's beautiful as a ring, but as a bracelet, it is a dimension that is just fantastic, really. And they used to do this in the Victorian period. What date do you think it is?
Well, I think it's probably early Victorian, about 1840.
1845, 1850 would be about the latest I would put on it, and it's very much 1840. It's very pretty jewellery, I have to say. I mean, it sounds a slightly odd thing to say, but jewellery of that period was very feminine. I think it's very, very saleable indeed. I know you're not going to sell such a ring because, of course, it's a family ring, but
Yeah.
I think such a ring like that, because of its feature that you can do so many different things with it, means that buyers would be very excited to see one like this. And I think in auction, £1,000 to £1,500 for
Yes.
it, I would
Yeah.
think.
Well, I've seen some strange pieces, but this takes the biscuit, I think. It's just fascinating. It looks like a rather late version of a Carlton House desk. This sort of horseshoe part here, space, and all these little compartments. What's the family history?
My mother bought it about 40 years ago in Montreal, and she's had it since then. She moved into a retirement residence 3 years ago and handed it down to me.
Wonderful.
And that's
And you use it as a desk?
as a desk. Oh, yeah, I use it every day.
Excellent. Well, these compartments slide backwards and forward, and the drawers pull out, and there is a clue that perhaps the drawers aren't quite as old as they should be.
Okay.
Construction with little pins in here, you see?
Right.
And we have some little plywood
Bits on the bottom.
on the bottom. And really, I think rather nearer the 1920s
Okay.
than earlier. However, if we look back at this thing, this is rosewood, and it has this moulding round here, which is a typical French moulding of the 1840s. 1830, 1840, 1850. This was very popular. Now the legs, I mean, there's something else, aren't
Aren't
they?
they?
Aren't they just wonderful?
They're fabulous.
They'd look probably better on a piano, would you think?
I was wondering if they're the original legs of this desk or if they've been added.
I think they are the original for what this desk was originally.
Oh.
I.e., if you look here, we have a cut, and another one there, and a cut in the moulding just there, and it's been shortened.
Oh.
And it was a piano.
It was a piano.
It was a piano, yes. An 1840s piano.
I don't,
And there's a
That
piano.
is- You're right. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it. I would have never, ever, ever guessed a piano. Wait till I tell everyone.
Now, value-wise, it's slightly difficult then, isn't it? Shall we value it as a very good-looking desk?
Oh, I think so.
I think we should, don't you?
Right, because that's what it is today.
Absolutely right. And in Britain, it would cost best part of £800, which is probably best part of $2,000.
Dollars, right.
Oh,
Wow.
yes.
That is surprising. I mean, it is so surprising. I can't believe it.
Any idea what period this is?
Well, I've always been led to believe it's Georgian, but I don't know. I don't know for certain.
George III.
George III, right, splendid.
It's about 1770.
Yeah, right.
Now, this form of table, before we go into the exact date, was virtually invented or certainly promoted by a Scotsman,
Right,
a Scots architect, called Robert Adam.
right. Oh, right. What wood is it?
Mahogany. But
Mahogany,
it's not the best mahogany, and it's got a lot of wear and tear. It looks like a family piece. How long have you had it?
I've had it forever, as long as I've been around, and as far as I know, it's been in the house in which I live, in which my family has lived for 200 odd years.
Right.
So that's all I know about it. It seems to me it's surprisingly high. Is that about the height?
It's typical of the period. It's
Oh,
a
right.
carving table, basically.
Right.
And you can see this wear and tear it's had here. I mean, this is 250 years of wear and tear.
Yeah.
This is more recent. It's a vase of flowers or something like that somebody's put on there.
Yeah.
Typical. Don't do it, please.
No, right.
Have you ever noticed one little added extra it's got on it?
What?
I was just crawling around underneath, and under here are 3 finger marks. Do you see these? the little gouge is here.
Yeah.
Right, if I put my fingers in there like that and pull...
Oh, no. I never knew that existed.
Isn't that nice?
Well, it's a total surprise. I didn't know it existed.
It looks like it hasn't been open for a while. It's a bit dusty there, look. It's hardly ever been used, this. See, it's very clever.
Yeah, yeah. Good heavens.
But also, what I like about this, I mean, it's got a lot of sophistication about it, yet at the same time, you know, I love this fluting here, this sort of copied from ancient Greece, this fluting. But then this, what's called an oval patra, this flower head here. But I can't see it on this one, but the one here, that's actually nailed on.
Good heavens.
Look, little
Oh,
nail.
yes, I see, yeah.
So whoever made this probably didn't make these. Somebody else made them. He bought them in
Stuck them
and
on
just
after.
stuck them on.
Yeah.
Interesting for what is a sophisticated
It's
piece
not
of
cheating.
furniture.
That's not cheating? No. Well,
No, it's perfectly genuine piece. So we need to value it. I mean, it's Georgian furniture. I think most people know has gone up in value recently. Have you had it valued in the last few years or anything? Has there been any valuation on it?
it was valued for probate when my aunt died, which is 3 years ago. And I think it was, they valued it at £12,000, which seemed to me an extraordinarily high figure, but I don't really know what I'm looking at. So that's what it was.
It does seem an awful lot of money, doesn't it, for what is essentially just a side table and a bit scratched.
Right.
Well, I think that today, for your insurance policy, you should insure it for £30,000.
Thank you very much. That's totally amazing.
Well, I remember my father buying it along with a lot of mess silver. He was in the Royal Scots Fusiliers.
Right.
And the regiment was going to India, and my father retired. That was in 1935, I think.
Right.
And he bought this and several other pieces, which I didn't keep. When he died, I sold them because, quite honestly, insurances and everything else was too much.
Yes.
But I've always loved this.
I'm not surprised, actually, because looking at it very quickly, my initial reaction is a spoon warmer.
Absolutely. Then you get a big surprise when you open the lid.
This is it, because now, a money box?
Yes, a swear box on the table.
A swear box?
Yes.
Oh, is that?
And anybody that swore had to put
Do you
something
know
in
what
there.
they had to put in?
No, I don't.
Well, I suppose earlier you could have put a sovereign in.
Absolutely, yes.
And that would soon add
I don't
up.
know what date it is or how old it is, actually.
Well, first of all, of course, it does straight away beg the question, is it original or not? The fact that it
this
is
is what I'd like
a
to
swear
know.
box.
Yes.
Now, and here's another surprise, actually, because normally if you get a spoon warmer of this form, which there are many around,
Yes.
they're electroplated.
Yes. And that's silver.
This is silver.
Yeah.
But there's another surprise, because it's Irish silver.
Really?
So what is the Scottish regiment doing
with an
a piece of Irish?
I wouldn't know.
Well, the date of this, here we are, it's Dublin, 1866.
Right.
There has to be a reason for
But I
it.
know definitely it was the swear box.
Right. And actually the maker there, the maker, funny enough, is this mark over here, which is the JS. But we've got the name West appearing underneath there.
Yes.
And this is something they did in Dublin. You would get the maker, as we've got there, and then you'd get the retailer putting his stamp on.
Right.
Little locket, of course, being the money inside, obviously it has to be locked up.
Yes. No key, I'm afraid.
It should be pretty easy to find
Yes,
the key. It'll be a very basic
Very
key
basic,
for that.
Yes.
But interestingly, it's marked also, if you see in the lid there.
Yes.
Now that confirms that the lid is original
Yes.
to the Nautilus shell.
Yes.
It's lovely the way they've done the flush hinge
Beautiful.
there as well.
Yes, I think it's lovely.
Because had this been a spoon warmer, either it would have been left open.
Right.
Some do have lids, but they have a slot cut at the front
Yes.
for the spoon.
Yes.
So this convinces me
That it is a swear box.
that it was made as a swear box.
Yes.
So, fascinating object. I have to say it's a very difficult object to put a value on. Have you got it insured or anything?
Yes, it's in the household insurance. I haven't.
Oh, it's not specified.
No.
I suggest you perhaps insure it for somewhere around 5,000.
Really? Yes.
It was a peace offering from my husband after a very disastrous dinner party in which one of the guests he'd invited didn't eat anything I had served. And I actually had to send out to the local pub for steak and kidney pie for her.
Well, it's a very, very pretty thing. It's, as you know, opals, beautiful opals. Before about 1850, opals came from Czechoslovakia, and they were horrible, dull little things. And in 1850, they started opening up the opal mines in Australia. And where opals get this lovely colour from, this lovely play of colour, is they're made of silica and water. And it's the water which actually makes the opal, because it's like an oil slick. You get this play, diffraction between the different layers of the silica with the water in between. And that's sometimes why people think opals are unlucky, because they can dry out. So you don't really want to keep them in a very, very dry atmosphere. And did you manage to find out what your husband paid for it?
No, I shouldn't think it was over the top, because I don't think it was that big an apology.
Oh, really?
So...
Well, I think it was a pretty handsome apology, actually, because for insurance purposes, I would value this necklace at somewhere between £5,000 and £6,000 today.
What? I'm going to have to apologise to him.
Well, I definitely think so.
Oh, good God.
I've just spotted that one, actually.
Oh, this one? Oh, that was a birthday present.
Oh, that's a pretty fabulous one as well.
That, I think, was reasonably expensive. But...
Yes, that looks like a few £1,000. Well, thank
really?
You. Well, that's much more valuable, actually, because that's a black opal.
Well, I think my husband paid about £1,500 for it.
Well, he's obviously got a good eye for these things.
I think I should keep
I'll
him.
have to employ him myself. Well, thank you for bringing them anyway. That's really great.
I don't believe it.
My grandmother handed it down to me when she passed away a few years ago at the age of 102.
Goodness gracious me.
So,
well, now look at that.
She left all this
Look at that.
for me as
Because
well.
here we have a veritable cabinet of curiosities. It's an extraordinary collection of Georgian and Victorian jewellery. Let's have a look at this one first, because this does catch my eye. And this is a Georgian gold Belcher link chain. And typically it's got a hand clasp terminating at the bottom. On the finger of the clasp is this little gem set ring. It's a beautiful little piece. There's another gold chain made out of spun gold. I mean, considering it was probably made in about 1825, 1830, you can see the technique, the sophistication that would have been made. Then there's some really delightful mourning rings. Now, the thing about mourning rings is, of course, when someone died, it was customary to commemorate the person by mounting a small lock of hair in a locket centre, surrounding it quite frequently with half pearls. Being mourning, the colour was black, always going to be black. And then at the back of the ring, we might find a small sort of engraving of the person's name, the date that they passed on. And then also you might find a tiny little locket compartment where there would be a small lock of hair. Do you wear them at all?
I have actually worn this little one. Sean and I got married in Winchester Guildhall last year dressed up in medieval costume, and I did actually wear that.
And that was the actual ring that you wore?
I did wear that one, yeah.
Let's just have a look at that one then, because it's quite a simple ring, really. It's a late Victorian gold ring with a sapphire in the middle, surrounded by a sort of posy of half pearls. So I assume then that apart from knowing it's come down the family, you've never actually had it valued before?
No.
Well, I think on the basis that a Georgian gold muff chain like this is a little shorter than the very long ones that you get, that by itself is probably worth something around £1,000. This fine mesh tubular chain necklace, that's probably worth around about £600 to £800. The rings, you've got the half hoop ring there, lovely diamonds, 5 graduated stones, that's worth about £800 to £1,000. The mourning rings are worth between £300 and £400 each. So from what looks like a fairly sort of straight Sheffield plate set, which is worth maybe no more than around about £300, you've got a lower tier drawer, which is probably worth £8,000.
God. Oh, I didn't realise that at all.
It really is a unique collection.
Goodness me.
As soon as I saw this box, which was lurking in the bottom of your handbag, it said something very specific to me.
Yes.
I realised it must have done. I couldn't believe you'd spotted it so quickly.
Well, the reason is that it's made of Hollywood, and it's a type of wood much favoured by a very famous Russian jeweller. Have you any idea who made this charming little brooch?
Well, when we first found it among my mother's effects, my daughter was looking at it and she said, that's Russian, I'm sure it says Fabergé. And I thought, I can't believe that, because I've no idea where it could have come from in our family.
No. And she was absolutely bang on, because in the lid satin, and satin it is a most luxurious object, this. I mean, the case is just as beautiful in a strange way as the object in it. This is pure silk at the top, and it says K. Fabergé, St. Petersburg, Moscow and Odessa. And it's an absolute bullseye. It's in perfect condition. The only thing that's a problem with it is that the pin has broken off, and that can be restored quite easily. And as you can see very plainly, it's in the form of a tiny little heart surrounded by diamonds.
Yes.
The stone in the middle, have you thought about the stone at all?
Not really. It's one I don't recognise at all. It's a faint green, is it?
It is a faint green. I think it's a zircon. It's got a very high refractive index. It flashes rather wondrously, and I think it's a green zircon. But the point about this jewel really is not anything to do with intrinsic value, because I have to say, the material of it is fantastically modest. It's a green zircon, really very low value indeed. The diamonds surrounding it are very low value, and the gold is, of course, completely negligible. But it's heightened with a little flash of yellow enamel, isn't it? It's very artistic. And if you look under the yellow enamel, you'll see that you're seeing through the translucent enamel onto an engraved ground. There's a sort of flecked ground there.
Oh, I see. I hadn't really studied it that closely.
Not even when your daughter read Fabergé. You had a closer look then.
I don't think I really believed it.
No, you didn't believe it. Well, we've got to now, I'm afraid, because it jolly well is. I mean, it's really an extraordinarily wonderful find, really. See that funny little hallmark there? It stands quite simply for Carl Fabergé. And then 56, which is the gold standard. Running down the back of it is a series of numbers, which actually you could live with it for a whole lifetime and never see. This is engraved with a little steel point, and it gives a sequence of numbers which refer to stock books. I've actually had the time to look at the London stock books and check whether this jewel is in there. Maddeningly, it isn't. If it had been in there, we would have known exactly how much was paid for it, when it was bought, and by whom it was bought. I think it's highly likely to have been sold in London. I can date it between 1903 and 1915 from the lid satin. It says Odessa here. That branch didn't open until 1903. It's rather like an archaeological site. There's lots of sort of pulls on it, tiny, tiny brooch, and you think, well, what's all the fuss about? This is, of course, a heart on a bar, and it probably meant love on some level or another. It's a most lovely, lovely find. I find it very touching, actually. This is a souvenir of Russia that's long gone by. When it was bought, it wouldn't have been a cheap object in any way. Having said that it's worth next to nothing intrinsically, Fabergé was not a shop where you expected to buy things inexpensively. It was a shop for an Edwardian elite, really, with enormous spending power. I mean, luminous amounts of money, which we can really have no contemplation of either. And this was a little toy just taken off a shelf for a very specific meaning. It would have cost perhaps something like 30 or 40 pounds. Today, I think it might be worth £8,000.
Got a week at the knees, good gracious.
It's my grandfather's. My grandfather brought it in the 1950s.
Yes.
My grandmother passed it on to me.
Well, that's marvellous, isn't it? Because what looks like a standard dining table reveals the solid oak, blonde oak leaves, and what we've got underneath is this great little snooker table. And I bet the children have loved it, haven't they?
Well, they do. The 5-year-old's not allowed near it yet.
No 5-year-olds on this table.
No 5-year-olds.
Well, because let's see, it's built by Mr. Riley of Accrington and solidly made. Riley started making billiard tables around 1900, 1899 to 1900. And this compact convertible dining table model was very popular. They started making it in the 20s. And do you know when this one was actually made? Did your grandfather buy it, or?
We've got the brochure for 1951-52, which I've assumed is when he made the purchase for it.
Yes. Well, that would be about right. So a long production run for Riley's with these things. You convert it from a dining table by picking it up from below, and it goes on those kind of cantilevered arms, which is really clever. It's a fantastic object, and in brilliant condition. And you've got some accessories. We've got the score
The scoreboard, yeah.
Yeah, and a
we've
box.
had that out on the wall occasionally.
Yes, and a good box of balls and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And at auction, you're likely to get about £1,500 to £2,000.
Really?
That sort of price. You should insure it for £2,500.
I bought it 6 years ago in Stowe, and I was a little concerned when I got it home to notice that the drawers seemed to be made out of recycled pieces of timber. And I wonder
Really?
whether it's entirely original.
Let's have a look. I mean, I've seen nice oak lining, but
The underside.
Right. Now I see what you mean.
Well, you should see the second drawer is even more interesting, in as much as it's more brightly coloured.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. The other one?
And very similar.
All right. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put this one on top of that one. Well, let me allay your fears first of all. There's nothing wrong with this. These pieces of furniture, particularly in the country, were made on large estates.
Right.
And this was where they would have stored wood that was not used. Whether or not it was carved, it was cut for a purpose and then simply not used and kept in the workshop. And then one day, somebody was asked to make a little chest of drawers for one purpose or another. In this case, most likely a house on the estate or a servant's bedroom. And what should we use for the lining? Use some of that old stuff we've got in the corner there. You know, well, it's got carving. That won't matter. No one will see. And so they used these boards, which in this case were prepared, were made for panelling in a room. And if this was made in 1740, these panels were 150 years old. These panels are 1500, 1550, 16th century. Difficult to be precise. Either Tudor or early Elizabethan. And they are wonderful. I've seen, obviously, pieces of furniture with similar carving on, and I've seen sometimes some decorations, some pigment. We know that they used to paint a lot of furniture in the 1540s through to the 1580s. But never have I seen the pigment protected, as it were. I've never seen it as pure as this. This is like the day it was painted. Here you can see the thickness. It's a sort of tempera. It's a wonderful texture. And that's never really been corroded by anything. It's just never been touched. So these were stacked up for 150 years and then bunged into a little chest. And you can see where they've chamfered the edges off to make it fit. Absolutely stunning. Imagine, you know, a panelled room. These are from a panelled room, I'm sure.
It's not a Tudor rose, is it?
Well, yes.
Almost stylized.
Yes, absolutely. A stylized Tudor rose, and this is a sort of almost a guilloche moulding, guilloche banding pattern there. I think they are wonderful, wonderful. What do you do now? I mean, sort of put them on the wall, and maybe you should protect. Maybe you just leave them as they are. I don't know. Difficult to keep showing your friends every time they come round.
Yes.
How much did you pay for the chest?
£1,000.
Well, it's worth £1,000. A little fruitwood chest of drawers. I mean, certainly improved on that in 6 years. But these are a bonus. I suppose that panel is worth about £1,000, and that one £1,000.
Surprised me.
It's very exciting. Very exciting.